Good morning. You're watching Sunrise. Thank you for tuning in. As we all know, the anniversary of the ending of World War II is approaching, so today we have two very special guests to speak with us about their country and their involvement in World War II. First, we may not know, but many Latin American countries were involved in World War II, including Brazil. Brazil had a big impact on helping the United States in the war. So I would like to share this picture with our audience. And this picture shows a soldier of the Brazilian Expeditionary Force loading an artillery in Italy around the year of 1944. This photo shows the pride that the soldiers of the BEF had when they were fighting in the war, defending their country. Although this is a really good picture, it does not tell the exact date or location, nor does it give the name of the soldier. So the first question I have for you guys is, to what extent was your country involved in the war, and did you provide economic assistance? Did you send your military to fight? Did you provide resources? And were you attacked?
Well, at first Brazil didn't seem to support either the Allied or the Axis powers more than the other, but eventually they sided with the Allied powers, and Brazil was only brought into the war once the United States was brought in, which was after the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. After the bombing, Latin American countries and the other American countries met in Brazil for the Rio de Janeiro meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the American Republics, which started on January 15th, 1942, and ended on the 28th. And the purpose of this was to discuss what actions to take after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and the countries decided to end all connections they had with the Axis powers, and it helped to see how the countries collaborated. However, the reader is only limited to knowing the actions, not its effects on the war. Overall, Brazil was important to the Allied powers because they produced rubber, which the United States needed for the war, for their vehicles, and they created the Brazilian Expeditionary Force, which...
Who were the leaders of your country at this time, and what socio-economic conditions existed in your country?
Getúlio Dornelles Vargas was the leader. He was a dictator of Brazil from 1930 to 1941, and from 1951 to 1954. He was known as the father of the poor because he fought against landowners and large businesses. The social and economic conditions included the idea of labor groups due to the war and state-building projects. Materials from Brazil had to be shipped due to the loss of marketing around other countries, and Brazil and Mexico came together to fight.
What was your government's reaction to your residents of Japanese ancestry after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor?
Brazil didn't take any defensive approach to the Japanese ancestry in their country. They had a population of about 300,000 Japanese people who were left alone for the most part.
How did your country respond to the Holocaust? Did they take any measures to end it?
The policy of the ruler wanted and desired the development of the anti-political parties. He was against the idea of immigration, therefore he fought for the purpose of the immigration laws. From 1918 to 1933, 96,000 Jewish immigrants were admitted, and in 1933 to 1941, 12,000 were admitted. During this time, Brazil took in thousands of people who weren't Jewish. It was easier for non-Jewish people to be accepted. By 1941, when Germany wanted to eliminate all Jews, Latin America issued passports, visas, and citizen papers. From this idea was the beginning of the efforts that helped the Jewish people.
Did the status of women in your country change because of World War II? Did the status of minorities change, and who were the minorities?
Well, before World War II, the women of Brazil had many limitations on things that they were allowed to do. World War II did change the status for many of the women of the Brazilian Expeditionary Force. At the time, the status of the Amarelos, the minorities of Brazil, didn't change because there was never any signs of racial equality.
Did your country ever join the United Nations, and if so, when?
Yes, they did in 1945.
Thank you very much for your time, Ivy and Kylie.